Okay, this is a quick video audit for today's discussion with the good guys. The audit basically covers a few quick pointers to bring to the light some technical aspects we can focus on in terms of improving the SEO for the good guys. So first of all, we've gone through the email. We've looked at a lot of things, including speed. However, we're not going to talk a lot about some of these things that are already a bottleneck and that we will have to continue working with. But we're going to look at some of the things that can be fixed that I do believe are relatively quicker and easier to fix with a little bit of a more impact. We Obviously, I haven't spent a lot of time on the good guys. I've given it a few hours, but I think with enough access to analytics data and access to webmasters data, we could potentially make some really big impact on organic traffic. So let's start out by first having a look at what are some of the things that we would immediately do to improve the SEO on some of these pages. So first of all, if I actually go into one of these things, so for an example, fridge and freezers, surprisingly, it's a thing that I'm in the market to buy. I've already also gone to the good guys and subscribed to the newsletter. So let's just start there as a user that's looking for fridges and freezers. Now, you can see this page, obviously loads up with some quiz-based action at the top, followed by some fridges that might be, top sellers, followed by some more fridges, sort of categories of fridges, and continues on from there. If I actually do a document outline of this page, then you can see that the document outline puts out how the page is laid out in terms of the headings. And headings are one of the most critical aspects of a page because Google will place a lot of emphasis on header H1s, for an example, and then child headings, which is H2 to H6, would have a little less importance and retrospectively lesser importance as they go down the chain. You can see that there's a few H1s, which is obviously a problem for this page. So there's at least 3 H1s I can see here. Find the right fridge, knock knock, and fridges and freezers, which is what's telling Google this page is about fridges and freezers, or how to find the right fridge, including the section here, which is knock knock. H2s are also simultaneously critically important. So, there's a few H2s in there that are just sprayed around that could potentially be removed. Some H2s in there that might not actually be as relevant. For an example, read more on fridges and freezers might not be relevant because that tells Google that you need to go to another page to read more about fridges and freezers, or open up an accordion to read more about it. There's some other things like the good guys have trained a sales team. This one here could actually be made to look the same with a different paragraph text or a different P heading. So structurally, this page could be improved by ensuring that we have few H1s, which probably just limit to one H1 on the page. Spray the H2s and limit them to maybe 2 or 3 H2s in a page, and then structurally organize the other headings. And whatever heading, doesn't seem to be a header like this one here, or for some of these things, you could be moved into a P tag to ensure that Google doesn't place as much importance on that section as it does on some of the other ones. So by organizing the pages in this way, we could technically raise the overall authority of the page, thereby also impacting some of the other pages that this page links to. So that's the first thing about the document outline. Now, if I go on to the other page, which is the dishwasher installation service, which I've found through the services page here, there's a bit of a chunk of text. It's really well laid out. When searching for dishwasher installation or dishwasher installation services, this page does rank quite well. However, I think we could do better by targeting a whole topic or theme of words to basically target this page. So, just when we search for dishwasher installation or dishwasher services, this page does rank. However, when we start going further in long tail sort of queries, which is have to install a dishwasher, or how to install a Bosch dishwasher, for an example, or some of the other things, this page doesn't seem to rank as well. So we could do certain things here, obviously, but again, pulling in a document outline on that page sort of says, that we could do better. So your H3s doesn't your preferred store; these don't need to be in H3s. There's a few header texts tags in there that don't need to be there. Uh, there's FAQ section in here, which is marked under H4. I've never had a dishwasher. I'm not sure if this is TAP or PowerPoint. Will you install these if I need them? Now, that's a critical query that I would think answers a very specific question, and so some of these other ones in here. So I would actually, first of all, try and see if I can bring these H4s up to H2s. And at the same point in time, because the FAQs do have an answer, I would find a way to connect that H4 to the answer, which could potentially either sit in an H5 or find a way to conjoin them together so that Google knows that the answer to this one here is the next piece of text in there. By doing this, when people search for things like purchasing a dishwasher, the chances of this page showing up are higher. Now, I know that this page is about installation and services. So purchasing a integrated dishwasher installation, or dishwasher integrated dishwasher installation services, or those sort of words would trigger this page to show up in Google search results, which will then heavily impact the organic traffic flowing through to these pages. Now, moving on, I know we've said that there's some challenges with speed. I've already pulled in a Lighthouse speed report, and I'm not going to go into details of what are some of the things that we could do. However, I think it is worth mentioning that a large chunk of agony actually comes from script execution. The JavaScript script execution, I think about 4,800 or 8,800 milliseconds, which is 8.8 seconds. And one of the things that obviously we've done is we've actually moved a lot of this script into Google Tag Manager. So I've looked up the source code for Hotjar. For an example, Hotjar doesn't trigger. We've looked up analytics. So I think it triggers, but it's basically, I think, although it triggers, but I think there's Tag Manager code in there, as you can see. So a lot of that scripts are triggering through Tag Manager, which is a good practice. But bear in mind, the scripts are still triggering, which means that the scripts sit within the Google Tag Manager, but they're still triggering on this page. And that is what's causing the 8.8 seconds bottleneck, or the script execution the first time, and half that time when the cached page is served the next time. Now, there's obviously some advanced technologies, Google Tag Manager being one of them, but there's something more that we could do to completely eliminate that script execution time of 8.8 seconds. And in addition to that, we can also gain a lot of other meaningful information about a unknown user that's just maybe submitted their email for a newsletter and hasn't really signed up or hasn't really purchased the good guy. So that's the next level of of identifying your users. So, for an example, Google Analytics wouldn't give you information about PII, which is personally identifying information. However, there are other tools in the market that would do the same. So, coming back to talking about these things. So let's say we can see that there's some scripts in here, like this Yieldify, which is I'm assuming something to do with personal experiences, or the GTM tag in here, which is still running, which still serves. There's the analytics tag in here, which still serves. I think I noticed there's again a Google Tag Manager code in there. There's a Criteo code in there. Now, all of these are running on the same page, collecting the information. What we would do ideally is we would utilize a tool like Segment. And what the Segment tool does, it's one single piece of code that actually runs on the website and collects all the events instead of all of these firing, and then processes all that data on the Segment backend, and then pushes that data over to some of the other tools you require. By doing so, instead of having your tag manager execute all of these scripts on the page, you are only executing one single JavaScript, which is the segment code. And then once the data is captured, Segment then processes that data on Segment server and pushes that data to all the other tools you require. So you could add other destinations. For an example, you could add, like you saw, you could add a whole heap of tools here that you could add. Uh, Basically like Criteo is there. So you could add Criteo. So instead of Criteo running on your site and slowing down your site via Google Tag Manager, you could have it. You could simply have your existing data. You could simply have your existing data fed to Criteo via the JavaScript console. So you could enable a lot of these connections via the segment, and that means that you are reducing the amount of script execution that will take place on your website, thereby significantly improving your website speed. Now that's the segment tool itself is a double whammy, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But coming back to the SEO aspects of it, so a large chunk of this DOM size and including the JavaScript execution of 9.3 seconds could be eliminated by simply reducing a lot of these JavaScripts and removing Google Tag Manager, and then using a tool like Segment to then feed it to tools like Google Tag Manager as well. So you can also do your Google Tag Manager integration here. As you can see, you can send data to Google Tag Manager um, here, as you can see. So obviously that will help with speed. There's more stuff in terms of SEO. So for an example, I've pulled up an article that was written on the site, which top 5 bestseller laptops for back to school. This article goes into some of the best laptops that have been sold. So assuming that this query is being targeted towards bestseller laptops or best laptops for back to school or best laptops for kids. This page, obviously talks about some of these things. Now, what are some of the things that I would do to improve the SEO of this page? So first of all, pages that have authorship or pages that have experts giving recommendations are likely going to rank much higher than pages with no authorship or anonymous authorship. So obviously this one here doesn't have an author, and although authorship schema tags have Google's deprecated the authorship schema tags. Having an expert write the article still, in our experience and in general experience with other webmasters around the world, seems to uplift the ranking of the article. Ranking of the article in a larger sense. So that's obviously what we will do here. There's other things. For an example, there's other things that we would do with some of these pages. So, for an example, I actually did a query on Philips at Good Guys, and I pulled up the Google search results. So, just to give you an idea, we pulled up, we did a search query for the site The Good Guys, and we pulled up the search results. I clicked on the Philips, and I looked at the cached page. This page was last cached on 22nd of April 2020. Today being the 23rd. Now, I had a look at this page yesterday as well, and the date that this page was last cached was on 22nd February 2020. So I've actually triggered a recrawl of this page by looking at the cached version of this page, and it's been the same for some of the other pages. But it made me think that the time difference, and that was lucky, the time difference between the time when this page was cached last time and is cached now is about 2 months to 60 days. Now, obviously, in addition to that, there's some elements in the cached page, which is all the products here that seem to be missing. So Google is still finding it a bit challenging to crawl some of these aspects of the product section here. But at the same time, because of these challenges, Google is not crawling the site as often as you would like it to. So I've actually gone through the total number of pages, barring all the images and scripts and things like that. It's about 15,000 pages. So I would assume that with the authority of the Good Guys and over time, we should have a crawl happening every week, if not less. So I think the pages should be relatively updated much more quickly. And the reason we want these pages to be updated much more quickly is because we would be categorizing our products more frequently. We would want some of these products to benefit from the seasonality before the product goes out of sale. So for an example, this Philip Moisture Protect might only last for 3 months. And you don't want Google to take 3 months to index this product, show up in results, and then for you to have to deprecate the product entirely. So obviously what we want to do is we want to improve our crawl budget. We want to improve Google's time to crawl these pages. And by doing so, we can thereby extract a lot of ROI from products that may not last for more than 6 months or 12 months or maybe even a year and a half. So you want to be at the top of the results on the products that you're trying to push right now as quickly as possible. So obviously, there's some work that we can do with finding out why there's issues with some of the product page category pages not having the products being appropriately shown by Google, and in addition to this, what we can do to improve the overall crawlability. Now, there's some buying guides in there as well. Like, it almost seems like a filter, and you could actually go in and look for buying guides using that tool there. And there's a few things that we could do with this buying guide. Again, one of the things could be the authorship, but the other thing we could do here is we could improve the placement of these buying guides, thereby ensuring that these buying guides are triggered for keywords around advice on buying kitchen appliances or how to redo your kitchen and things like that. So that's a bit about SEO. Now, going back to the point about using tools like Segment instead of using Google Tag Manager to process the data on a third-party site as opposed to the good guys, one of the other things you could do is to improve other forms of marketing. So for an example, I'm actually in the market, as I said earlier, to buy a fridge. And I've been subscribed to the Good Guys newsletter. And this is the sort of newsletter that's come through just, I think, yesterday. So, surprisingly, I've actually also bought a dishwasher from the Good Guys about 3 months ago. So this obviously is not the right sort of fit for me. I'm not in the market to buy a TV, not in the market to buy a new Ripollet. Although you might be in the market, although the Good Guys might be in the market to actually try and sell one of these things. But this is a very blanket targeting. This is a way of blanket targeting the entire market with the entire newsletter. In addition to this, somebody would have to manually sit down and work out the entire newsletter, which will go through approval process, and there's no contextual targeting about products with these things. Now, there's a way to actually find out if a user at any point in time is interested in a certain type of product, whether that user's purchased from you a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So let me show you how that works. So let's say, Web Optimizers is our site, and we have a user called AJ, which is me, assuming I'm a user, has come to the site maybe 3 months ago, and for some reason has submitted an inquiry form, or could have downloaded an ebook on the website. So would have browsed over to the SEO page, would have filled out this form here with the email address and clicked submit. That's how the tool like Segment would capture this person's information, which is the email address. So as you would see here, Segment's identified that AJ Chafta is now come back to your site and is viewed the SEO page. And you could see this demo in live. So if I actually go back and I browse over to the client's results page, you can go back and you can see that he's now viewed the client results page. Now, what this is doing is basically, once a user has submitted their email address, so whether that's they've purchased through Good Guys or they've given you an email for newsletter, you could continue tracking them for a very long time. So if 3 months later, if I come to the Good Guys and I'm browsing pages related to fridges, then you know that I'm interested in buying a fridge. Now, once you've got that information, you could then feed that information into some other tools like marketing tools. So, for an example, I could feed that information into a tool like customer.io or Drip or let's say MailChimp and customize the newsletter to only send me deals about fridges. So, what I'm essentially doing is I'm essentially targeting a user. First, I'm capturing the user via hooks like either a newsletter subscription, deal subscription, concierge subscription, or in-store purchase or any sort of purchase. And every time that user comes back to the site, I'm going to know which pages they've visited, and then I'm going to target that user via a personalized email saying, here are some deals about the fridges. Please come back and have a look. Now, the whole thing might take a few months to set up. It might take a month, might take 2 months, depending on how complex the setup is. But once this is automated, there's a very huge amount of ROI that can be done for an organization like Good Guys simply because of the volume of products that are being sold. And this is where the next level of marketing automation comes in place. Now, in addition to this, which is sending a newsletter, you could also put people like me who've come back 3 months later into a bucket via personas. But I'm just going to show you how that would work. So for an example, if I've come in and I've viewed a few pages, I could actually create an audience in Google Ads based on having visited a certain page. And then I could be starting to target you with some ads about fridges or freezers. I could do the same thing with Facebook audience, for an example, and be targeting you with Facebook audiences, and targeting you about ads about fridges and stuff. So this is a very lethal way of targeting, not only with known information, which is email, or if you made purchases, to target you with emails about fridges, but also target you offline to get you to buy some of these fridges. So this is cutting edge. This is what would not only improve the speed of the website, but would also help us deliver better targeted emails, would help us improve things like whether we can have custom audiences of people interested in fridges and target them with ads about fridges in terms of display marketing and some of these other things. Now, in addition to this, there's a few other things. For an example, had a look at the 4-scroll directed graphs. So I've taken a screenshot, couldn't pull the whole software in here, but you can see there's some, this is basically the Good Guys and all the links originating from the Good Guys, all the internal links originating from Good Guys, and how they're internally connected to each other pages. You could see here microwave ovens has a few outgoing children. So a lot of products being linked from the microwave ovens category. And you can see a red dot here, like almost like almost like a pink dot. You can see a lot of these happening all over the pages. And I have had a look at it, and it seems like some of these pages have links with a trailing backslash. So what that is that, as you can see, the Good Guys actually utilizes a format which is it doesn't have a trailing backslash on most of these pages. So you can see that this page doesn't have a trailing backslash. Now, if I do add a trailing backslash and I hit enter, it actually redirects me, a 301 redirect, back to the page without a trailing backslash. So that's obviously keeping every URL in the same format without a trailing backslash. However, when crawling the website, we can see a lot of the links on some of these pages have a trailing backslash. So essentially what's happening is that we're creating two versions of the same page, and we are feeding it's essentially the same page because there's a 301 redirect, but to crawlers, we are feeding a version which then results into a 301 redirect, which then goes into a 200 status code. So what you want to do is you want to remove that. You want to always consistently find ways to link without a trailing backslash. So I think this is an automatic thing that's happening through the system, and we will just have to dig a bit deeper to find out why these trailing slashes are left on the system. Now, in addition to this, there's a few other things that I've noticed. One of the things that I noticed yesterday was, in kitchen appliances, I think specialty appliances. If you notice, small kitchen appliances, specialty appliances, it's a self-referencing canonical and it's indexable. However, when I hop over to if I hop over to specialty appliance, which also loads that, and I have a look, it's actually canonicalized to a version which is two levels deep. So the current URL is canonicalized, but at the same time, it's also indexable. So you would either want to self-canonicalize, and if you're worried about duplicate content, then you'd want to make it not indexable. Because you want to serve that to the customer, but you don't want to double up on on some of these things. So there's a few small, not small, but there's a few quick wins we can easily achieve in the first few months, going through crawling the site. But a lot of the investigative outcomes will come from the fact that we have access to analytics and Google Webmaster Data, and that's when the real ROI will be.